Hello, my name's Ian Seeger from Pilot Career News. On the 6th and 7th of November, we held our very first virtual edition of Pilot Careers Live. We streamed over 30 different seminars with 60 speakers. There were 2 days packed full of great information. Of course, we recorded everything, and you're about to watch one of the videos from the event. Before you do, I just want to thank our sponsors, Bowes, Alsim, Entro, and of course Pulis. Without them and without the exhibitors, it wouldn't be possible. The exhibitor pages are still live, so feel free to head on over there, go to www.pilotcareerslive.com and click through to the exhibitors. There's loads of information, loads of downloads, all sorts of great stuff there for you. Anyway, enjoy the video, and if you find it useful, really appreciate it if you click subscribe on our YouTube channel. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Welcome back everybody, and welcome to our second panel discussion of the morning. The topic of this session is the training routes, ATO management panel taking control of your training. We've got a real excellent panel of speakers here today from a variety of different ATOs, and in just a moment I'm going to ask each of them to introduce themselves to you. To my right, actually live here in the studio, we've got Rod Wren from Wings Alliance. So I think it might be best to go to Rod first for your own intro.
Thanks, Karen. As you just said, my name's Rod Wren. I've been in the aviation industry for quite a few years now. I started out in the RAF before joining Oxford Aviation Training some 30 years ago as head of training. I moved on to CTC Aviation Training, where we both met.
Yeah, we did indeed.
I'm now a director of Bristol Ground School and the Wings Alliance. And the Wings Alliance sponsors and mentors pilots through their training and offers APS MCC courses.
Excellent. Thank you very much indeed, Rod. Yeah, we met many years ago. So it's quite funny coming back and meeting all these people in these different scenarios and wearing different hats. But welcome. Thanks very much for joining us today. Okay, so we have 6 other panel members who are with us remotely this afternoon. Sadly, it would have been great to have everybody here, but we can't, as you all know. So next I'm going to ask George from Egnatia to introduce himself. Hi, George.
Hello there, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you very much for this one, and congratulations for the whole organization. It's amazing what you have achieved so far. My name is Triantafyllidis. I'm the Business Development Director of Egnatia Aviation, responsible for all the airline contracts and the B2B contracts of the Academy. I'm into this, I'm with Egnatia the last 8 years and growing more. So I'm really looking into today's discussion.
Fabulous. Thank you very much. Good to have you here with us, George. Next up, Lorenzo, please.
Hello, everybody. My name is Lorenzo. I am the accountable manager and accountable manager, Director General of Urbe Aero ATO. We are based in Rome, the capital of Italy, and we offer MPL courses, ATPL integrated and ATPL modular. Thank you for invitation.
Thank you for joining us, Lorenzo. Thank you. Next over to Kyle from AFTA.
Hi, I'm Kyle from Atlantic Flight Training Academy in Southern Ireland. I've been flying for over 30 years. Started in the University Air Squadron, was an aerospace engineer with Bombardier, and then lucky enough to get into Aer Lingus and flew turboprops 737 and A330. I've now been in the training arena for the last sort of 15 years. Currently the training manager here, so I overlook or have oversight for all the training programs we have. And similar to the others, we do MPL integrated and all the modular programs you can think of.
Great, thank you. Thank you very much. Next is Oli from Pilot's Paradise.
Yeah, hi everyone. Oli Fisher from Pilot's Paradise in sunny Florida. My background is RAF for 12 years, flying the VC-10, instructing. Then currently actually with British Airways, flying the A320 out of Heathrow. And I'm currently the Vice President for marketing for Pilot's Paradise Academy out in Florida. And they're predominantly looking at trying to debunk 2 big industry things at the moment, which is low quality training and overpriced training with sort of false promises at the end. So we're trying our best to get high quality training to people for the best possible value. And we're doing EASA and FAA training equally.
Fabulous.
Thank you. And last but by no means least is Sarah from Helicentre Aviation.
Hi everyone, nice to meet you. I'm Sarah Bowen, Director and Head of Training at Helicentre Aviation. I'm here to put my perspective on rotary helicopter pilot careers. And we're an ATO based in the centre of the UK, so in Leicester, and we specialise in professional pilot training to industry. We work very closely with industry to look at the requirements for flight crewing globally. We're partnered with Bristow Helicopters. We've got lots of courses. We're approved for all the different various courses, modular and integrated rotary. And hopefully I'll be able to help answer any helicopter specific questions that you've got.
Brilliant, thank you very much, Sarah. So we've opened up the feed for people to put questions through as the panel's going on, but in the main we'll probably hold those for the Q&A panel a little bit later on today. But so, as we said, the session title is Taking Control of Your Training, and really my first question to you guys about this is, what would your top 3 tips be to somebody thinking about going into training at the moment? And simply because it's easy for me at the moment, I'm just going to turn to Rod to go first.
Obviously, the big issue for everybody thinking about training is the other end of the training, in other words, the job market when they graduate. And you will find wide opinions about when the aviation industry will recover in a significant way. And indeed, once it recovers, what the pilot recruitment market will look like, because as we know, there are many, many pilots who are fully qualified, experienced, who are currently unemployed. So it's a bit of a guessing game at the moment, looking forward to graduation. So my top tip really is take control over the pace of your training. If you're considering starting training now, that's not a bad idea necessarily, but it is a bad idea if you don't have any control over the graduation date. So you want to graduate after the airline market picks up and when the airlines start recruiting low-hour pilots, not just recruiting, but recruiting low-hour pilots. So a means of training that means that you can control the graduation date is tip number 1. I think tip number 2 is one that applies in any times, not just now, and that is before you commit an enormous amount of time and money to a career, make sure it's the right career for you. So the first thing I would advise people to do is do assessment. Get assessment from someone who is not trying to sell you a course on your prospects, where you stand, how you are in the pilot competencies we've talked about already, what you can work on over the next 2 years. Because airlines aren't just looking for people's ability to fly, they're looking at the person. They're looking at their interpersonal skills, the wider range of non-technical skills, and knowing where you stand right now at the beginning of your training, giving you the opportunity to develop and growth, I think is really important. So tip number 2 is get assessment before you start. And I guess tip number 3 is something that's been touched in presentations already, is have a plan B. In these circumstances, going all in, life isn't a poker game, going all in on flight training with no backup, committing all of your money, I think is unwise. So do it in a controlled, planned, sensible way. Take time overseeing what's going to happen as things unroll over the next couple of years.
Yeah, good advice. Guys who are not here with us, anybody would like to add additional tips to that?
Yeah.
Oli, you go.
I think absolutely on the preserve the money side, I think that's got to be the number 1 really. So I think looking at schools that you don't have to put big deposits down up front, I think that's a really good tip. And a kind of a pay as you go mentality is probably the best way of doing it. I think the idea of keeping your income, keeping a job going is a really good idea. Maybe, but then the problem with flying, again, the continuity is so important. So almost doing it in chunks, sort of blasts, I think is a really good tip. So head out and do a month's course, intensive to get your whole PPL, and then start there. As the last gentleman said rightly, it's you've got to make sure it's for you, make sure you enjoy it, make sure you're reasonably good at it, and a PPL is the way to do that for sure, because you'll see if you like flying. It's the first introduction. You can take your time, really get to know it, and it's the first step. So I think that's a really good way to go, because you can always afterwards, and it can take up to a year or so to get your ATPLs. You can do those distance learning or whatever. So if you've got your PPL in the bag and you're enjoying your flying, you can go on holidays with that. You can go flying around, anywhere you like really with a PPL. Get that hour building up slowly but surely, and that's a 2-year process. And you're almost 150 hours, 200 hours into your 250-hour course. So in reality, you've kind of broken the back of it with your ATPLs in the bag, which is what everyone hates doing. So get those done slowly but surely in the evenings with your job. Get your pilot license, and just start building up those hours, and just add to it when you can. Add your night rating when you can. Add your IRR when you can. Your instrument rating restricted, and just keep building it up. But I would also sort of advocate doing it in chunks, so you keep that continuity, which will keep your training costs as low as possible.
Yeah, thanks, Oli. Yeah, so there's a theme building here. So, sorry, who's that, George?
I would fully agree with Rod about the pre-entry selection. That's extremely important to know if you are trainable and employable. There are two aspects. If we can train the prospect pilot, and if he can be employed at the end. I would agree with Oli about the large upfront payments. Everyone needs to be extremely careful on that one. And mostly what I would advise to prospect cadets, please pay visits to the academies that you would like to invest a whole career. Since once things will become better in terms of travel restrictions, please make sure that you pay a visit, you discuss with active cadets what's the situation, what's the reliability of the academy, and make sure that whatever you are planning to do is on the right way.
Thanks, George. Good advice. Kyle, Lorenzo, would you like to come in here at all?
Yeah, if I could. Just in terms of when you're looking at the cost of doing a course, don't forget to take into account, particularly if you're doing it modular and you have to travel and you've accommodation costs and all the other things. Certain types of courses will suit certain types of people and their financial status. An integrated course can still be a very good way to do it. What I would suggest is, if you're going to do aptitude test, is go to a training facility that up to now has got people jobs and knows the standard required. Go to them. They know what they're doing. They'll do an assessment on you. They'll give you a very good idea whether you're up to it or not. And then, as the guys have been saying, take control of your timeline. But remember, currently, on average, it will take you 16 to 18 months to cover just an integrated course, and then the airline will have to do their own aptitude test or processes with you. You may go into a hold pool, then you have a type rating after that, and before you go online. Particularly with the influx, hopefully we'll see the use of the 737 MAX coming in. So there's going to be an awful lot of crew training that the airlines are going to have to do, and they may take people earlier. So, for example, if we're expecting a vaccine early next year, you could see the numbers traveling next summer to be very, very large, and they're going to have to bring in extra flight crew for that. So they're going to have to start training pilots 6 months in advance of that. So again, modular, it can be good for people, particularly if they want to stretch it out over a period of time. It can cost you more than an integrated course, and that's something you've got to be careful of, because you've more R building to do than you would on an integrated course. But look at your own circumstances in terms of timeline, finance, all that. Put it all in together, and then the critical thing is do your research and go, as George said, visit the schools, talk to the people, see do they have the resources, talk to students that have graduated from those places as well. How did they get on? Were they helped through it? What were the job prospects at the end?
Brilliant, thank you, thanks. So we've had quite an airline operation type perspective here. Sarah, let's go over to you. What would your viewpoint be? What's your 3 top tips?
So from the rotary side of things, we haven't really been affected by COVID significantly, because a lot of the helicopter operations are national resilience, oil and gas, search and rescue. Even the pilot training, we're up on hours 20% over last year, so it's very, very busy. We've got, obviously, you've got HEMS, you've got police as well, you've got all these different types of careers, so always have a plan. Try and talk to the operators that are recruiting and talk about what job prospects you'd like to go into. So because there's a different route depending on what you want to do. Talk to the ATO about their success stories, what career opportunities those people have got, what links they've got with the industry, and make sure that you do have a plan, whether it's integrated or modular. They both achieve the same license. So it's really just down to circumstance and what fits around your lifestyle. And as somebody said earlier, you don't need to give up the day job. The modular course has been generating professional helicopter pilots for many, many years. Integrated, we've only seen really coming into the UK market a year ago. So both options are still very viable, and nobody really is going to ask you, what did you do modular or did you do integrated at your job interview? So just whatever works for you to get you there and makes it viable around your job and family commitments. But do go to an ATO that does pilot selection, because of course, with all the psychology assessments and things that are coming in now, the pilot peer support and all the rules are changing in terms of assessments. All operators are putting pilots through psychological evaluations, which obviously is an important part of being assessed in the first place. So it's really important to get that honest feedback from the ATO about whether you are suitable for training, rather than just being able to take a course because you've got the money to do it. So you need that feedback to say, yeah, I'm suitable, or I've got a possible career path planned out. So talk to the pilots, talk to the students at the ATO, just to make sure you're going in there with your eyes open. Is what I would say is the best thing.
Brilliant, thank you, Sarah. And Lorenzo, I won't forget you, don't worry. What would your 3 top tips be?
In my opinion, this is the best time to start a training, because everybody knows that this is a bad period for airlines, but we are sure that there will be a recovery quite soon. And so if a training takes, let's say, a couple of years to be completed, the best time to start your training is now, today. And you will have the time to prepare yourself to be ready when the airlines will pick up again, and when the market will pick up again. The second advice is to look around you, visit all the schools that you can visit, talk to people, have a pre-assessment. But then when you decide for a flight academy, be resilient and go on with the training. Don't think too much, don't look much around you. When you decide, be committed and go ahead. Because we need pilots, we will need pilots, and we need people that are convinced that their job is the best option that they could have. And we need pilots that are self-resilient. This is the best advice I can give to young people. So think about it, look around you, and when you decide, go ahead without questioning too much.
Thank you very much. There's this real strong theme from all of you here, which is saying manage your training timetable yourself, which is obviously really important. The other thing is about assessment. Make sure you go somewhere that can actually put you through a selection process, and you can make an informed decision about whether you have the skill set to actually not only do the job but cope with the training in the intervening period. And thirdly, something that's been mentioned by lots of you is about going and visiting the different training centres, and I've made a note on that one, because how are you managing that at the moment, where we can't have non-essential in the UK anyway, in England? What are you doing about visits to the training centres? Rod?
I think all of the training centres at the moment have adapted really quickly to online discussions. You should be able to get a Zoom call with your chosen training centres straight away. The other thing, of course, is that you will be able to speak to people who have visited. A lot of the guys have mentioned talking to graduates, talking to current students. That's really important. You get a different perspective from the school's own perspective.
Yeah.
So talking to lots of different people, as many people as possible, taking with a pinch of salt what some people say, and getting an overall impression yourself is really important.
Yeah, good. I think that's probably the case for everybody. I just wanted to cover that one off before we moved away from the visit subject. Something that we've picked up a lot over the morning is people are saying now is a really good time to go into training, because hopefully you will be able to manage your timeline and graduate at a point where recruitment recommences. But obviously there are a lot of airlines who have made pilots redundant and who have put pilots into a whole pool to recall them as business returns to a semblance of normal, at least initially. So how would you feed back to that? There's also airlines that have put people on 50% or different types of operational contracts, and they have a commitment to bring those people back to 100% first before they recruit new people into the industry. So what would your comments be on that? I'm going to pick on somebody here. How about Kyle? Can I go to you?
Yeah, sure. We saw before, we went into COVID that there was a requirement for pilots. Yeah, this has put it sort of a plateau, if not stops that for a while. But if you look at the overall picture from the 1960s onward, and we had some dips in it from 9/11 and previous viruses and things like that, the trend is always upward. More people are traveling. I think you're going to see the low-cost carriers, if there's a vaccine early next year coming, really ramping up very, very quickly. And it always happens. We've seen, unfortunately, some of the airlines, go bust and things. But, for any vacuum, there's always someone to fill it. And you'll see other airlines cropping up. And you've probably seen names coming out, like as Emerald Airways coming out of the likes of maybe the Flybe, CityJet, Stobart, those types of areas. You can see Aer Lingus UK being talked about. There are always, in a downturn, there are always opportunities for these large companies. And we've seen a lot of restructuring as well to make themselves more efficient. So unfortunately, we've seen the demise probably of the A380 and the 747. Those days are gone, and now it's the large twins. And they're going all to one fleet as well. So the airlines are becoming much more efficient. They're probably going to have lower cost overheads. And once they do that, then they're going to be able to open up to the public and sell tickets at a lot lower prices. That means more people will fly. And if more people fly, you need more people to fly them. So, and we're hoping with the introduction shortly of the 737 MAX coming in, and the order books are still very high on that. Hopefully some of the airlines like Ryanair will be taking them on early next year. Then there's a lot of training to be done. A lot of airlines will maybe not use their current pilots for doing that, but will bring new pilots in. So instead of doing a conversion course from someone from the 737-800, 900, what they'll do is they'll take a brand new person in and put them straight into the 737 MAX. So, again, it's all about the efficiencies of bringing pilots in. But overall, I would say, or I would hope, that those hold pools are going to dry up very, very quickly. And we're going to see a lot more low fares airlines, and even some of the big operators becoming lower fares airlines, and more people flying, and more aircraft in the air. And we've also seen cargo. There's still, if you go on any of these apps at the minute, there's still an awful lot of airlines up there flying, and some of them have converted to cargo as well. And I think they've realized that there's an opening there, possibly, that they don't just have to fly passengers, they can do cargo. So you may see changes in the actual airline structure itself. And it's not just a passenger operation, it could be a cargo operation at night. And you don't have to have all these aircraft sitting on the ground in airports, So, and again, they need people to fly them. So, could see or hope that we're going to see a lot of people getting back into the industry and their jobs in the next sort of 12, 18 months.
Thanks, Carl. Yeah, let's go over the pond. Oli, what's your perspective?
Yeah, I mean, for the airline I currently work for, it's an interesting thing. I think it was IATA, the body said that, they're still looking at 2023 for us to be back where we were in 2019. And you kind of think about that and you think, hold on, that's not actually that far away in reality. And, I remember it well, we see the boom and the bust. And that boom of 19 was they literally could not recruit fast enough, and we were missing flights and we couldn't keep up in reality. Now, I don't know if it will go back to that, but that was the official body predicting that. And you take into account a lot of voluntary redundancies. That's people saying, you know what, I'm kind of done. I'm at the end of my sort of life within the last few years. So there's a few early retirements, and then the natural retirements over the next 3 years. I mean, I'm not trying to be overly positive for the sake of it, but if you do the raw maths on that, 2023, 3 years away, we've just lost quite a few pilots. Hopefully all those pools of sort of furloughed pilots will come back very quickly. We could be looking, you could argue there could be quite a pinch again in that period. So I do feel a sensible, attack on your flight training, and again, just get your PPL, get some hours, get the dreaded ATPLs out of the way, which takes ages, and you'll be in a position where within 3 months you can do a multi CPL multi IR within about 3 months. So you can potter along, enjoy your flying, go and have some good times, and as soon as you see that the crazy times come back, you can just go and do your 3 month kind of last stint to get your frozen ATPL. So that's kind of how I would look at it, and I wouldn't hesitate now to get a PPL. If you want to be a pilot, you've got to go and do that anyway. Go for it.
Okay, so actually that's a really good point to come in here. There's one of the questions that's come through on the feed here. There's a bit of confusion about the difference between PPL and ATPL. So could I go over, please, to perhaps George, if you could just give let's keep it snappy, if we wouldn't mind, so that we can get a couple more points in, but PPL and ATPL.
Mainly the difference comes with the training method. So we are discussing about the difference between modular and integrated. So PPL is the private license that you can fly with your own aircraft for your own hobby, and then you get your ATPLs, which is the theory. That's the traditional term. But the main question that started this morning with the live session is the difference between modular and integrated course, and that's a big question. My point of view, and actually the general point of view of the airlines, we should really look into what the airlines prefer. Our experience shows that with the airline cadet schemes that we are running, that all the airlines, they're looking into integrated graduates, number one. Number two, we should be looking what the industry, not only the airlines, but the regulator wants. As of January 2022, we are going through a mandatory competence-based training. So we're talking about continuation of training. This can be done only with the integrated. Modular is not into the game for everyone. I'm not blaming modular, but that's its nature. So the actual question here is the tricky thing on a prospect pilot now is that he or she is listening to totally different opinions. One says modular, another one says integrated. So you need to actually see things on your own way, but you need to check what the industry wants and take facts. So the difference between BPL and HPL is actually the modular or the integrated. You do it with your own time and pace, or the integrated, you do it in a structured way with specific deadlines and timescales. So actually we know that you're on a certain pathway. This is what you should be looking into actually as a prospect pilot.
Thanks very much, George. Lorenzo, we've been talking a little bit about the ATPL and the modular and the integrated and the MPL. Well, actually, MPL hasn't come into this discussion yet, and it's actually the next session after us. But what's your thoughts as to what people should be doing at the moment?
I don't want to go inside the question or the difference between integrated and modular, because it's pretty much like a religion. So some people prefer one way and other people prefer the other way. What we tend to do here in Urbe Aero, we tend to suggest people that if they can commit for 24 months and they can do only one thing, and the one thing is training, there's no reason not to choose the integrated course. So the integrated course for us is the best way and is the course of choice to become a professional pilot. If you have another job, or if you study, if you are at the university, or if you're studying at university, of course you cannot commit for an integrated course. So the other option is a modular one. So we just treated the thing in that way. Talking about the MPL is a new, let's say, new license, not so new, but new for the majority of the school. We are the only Italian ATO certified for MPL, and we started 2 years ago with Alitalia with this type of training. Of course, MPL, if you want to join an MPL course, you have to join an assessment directly to an airline, because the MPL, the big difference between ATPL and MPL is that MPL has to involve an airline. So the big difference is that. I don't know if now you can find a lot of MPL around, because the airline company cut all the costs about training. So maybe the only way today to start a good training is the ATPL.
Okay, thanks for that, Lorenzo. We're coming to the end of our session now, so I would just like to sum up, if I may, the pointers that I've picked out from this. And if you think I'm missing anything major, then please stick your hand up so that we can just get a couple of one words in from each of you if you need to. So for me, it was, I think it's recapping what I said earlier, it is chunk things up so that you can manage your own timelines. Check that you've gone through a selection process, and we've got a session later today on selection. And make sure that you are doing your research thoroughly, going around, asking the questions, speaking to past students, speaking to as many different people in the industry as you possibly can to get those answers in your head. So for me, those are the kind of 3 top points. Is there anything that anybody else would like just to add in 2 words so that we can close this session down? Silence. George, sorry, is that you?
Last thing. So can I have 2 minutes? 1 minute, please.
You can have 10 seconds.
10 seconds. I would fully agree with Kyle. He said previously that there are low-fare airlines that they are growing and they are expanding. This is Ryanair, this is Wizz Air. So I fully agree that I believe that we will be shocked in a good way how fast they will look into new graduate pilots, and they will be more selective. So I would say to prospect cadets, be aware of what you choose and the investment that you are making. So that's my point of view.
Yeah. So now, thank you very much to all of you for joining us today. Thanks for all your really informed inputs. And it goes back again, go away and make an informed decision. It's your decision as an individual, those of you who are watching. This is not someone else can tell you what to do or what you should do, where you should go. It's got to be your decision. So make sure you do your research thoroughly. Thanks very much to our panelists. We're going to close this session, but aptly our next session is about MPLs. So well worth hanging on and tuning into that to learn a bit more about it. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Karen.